So what is decentralized justice? I'm going to tell you a bit about the story of how this was born and how it evolved until now in just a few minutes, as fast as I can. So first a bit about me. So I am the founder at Kleros, and well, this is the result of things that I had done previously in my life. My background is in economics and in philosophy. I'm from Argentina, so I studied at the Universidad de Buenos Aires. And I started my career working in the online media, as business media and innovation. I was very much in touch with all of the startup ecosystem in a time when the world economy, was globalizing. People were like starting to work as freelancers for customers from all over the world. And crowdfunding was started to become a thing because you had like a Kickstarter, Indiegogo, those type of websites, and capital and work were becoming like liquid across the world. And as you might remember, at that time we had the financial crisis in 2008, and in October of that year, there was this very famous paper about Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto. And well, you know, as I was an Argentinian, Argentinians were very much early adopters in this technology because of the country having so many problems with inflation, bad governance, and well, everything people know. So Argentinians, you know, were like, it was a very natural fit for Argentinians to become interested in since the early days. And I got interested in the early days about this new technology. Some point I got tired of my, well, work at the media, and I went to do a PhD where I researched collective intelligence and how people started to collaborate on the internet to make different, you know, new tools, new organizations. I was a bit fascinated by, you know, the idea of Wikipedia, right? An encyclopedia built on collective intelligence that was enabling access to knowledge for people from all around the world. And I saw in Bitcoin kind of natural continuation of this idea of open knowledge of Wikipedia, but now it was an open currency that could be built by a network of collective intelligence, and that would enable access to finance to everyone. So the question like I asked myself is, what is the next step here? I mean, what if we built an open court system that can also be enabled by collective intelligence, and this could like potentially enable global access to justice for everyone? What I was thinking at the beginning was, you know, all of these people who were living in Argentina and didn't have access to like external markets because of people, if you had a customer in, I don't know, Germany and they wanted to hire you in Argentina, okay, they could pay you with Bitcoin, but they wouldn't hire you if there was no way for them to have a dispute against you in case you didn't do your website or the video in the right way. So I was thinking, okay, if we can build this kind of court system, this global, this kind of a good step toward more meritocracy in the sense of it doesn't matter where you were born, it matters what you can do, what you learn, and how hard, you work, right? And so I wrote this paper called the Crowd Jury with this idea of a crowdsourced judicial system for the collaboration era. You can see the date, November 10, 2015. This is when I first wrote this paper, and I started promoting, you know, this idea first among 5 people who wanted to listen to me. This is the Bitcoin Foundation in Buenos Aires, by the way. Then a few more came, you know, it was like 20 people, and then maybe it was 50 people. And at some point we were like filling, you know, conference rooms with people who were interested in decentralized justice. I mean, to be fair, this is a conference about other topics as well. It was not all of the people who came to see us, but, you know, you get the idea. So at some point, you know, people get interested, you know, from Fast Company, a very important business magazine from the US. I mean, you know, noticing what we were trying to build and publishing a piece about it. And then this is featured in a book. and then I get invited to give a TED Talk about decentralized justice, okay? So it kind of takes some steam, but I was not building this. I was just promoting the idea, at least expecting that someone would build this. I mean, I was just a guy from Argentina, very far away. No, I had no money, no resources. I mean, how would I ever going to execute on this? So I get an email one day from a person who was working at a very early day governance Bitcoin project called Suzanne, and she tells me that she was a juror in a hackathon where she met a guy who had an idea quite similar to mine. And he was a technical person. I was more like a business person. And she got us introduced. And this is how I met Clément, who is my co-founder at Kleros. And this is one of the first pictures we took together. This was in the DevCon Ethereum conference in Cancun in October 2017. And this was, I think, the first picture we have together. Okay, so this is a bit the backstory for you to learn how it was born and what was the motivation about decentralized justice. So what is it then? So let's go back to this idea of freelancers, world economy. So you have Alice, who is in France, and she's an entrepreneur, and she wants a video to promote her company, and she hires Bob, who is from Guatemala. And he makes the video, and she's not happy because she claims that the quality is not what she expected. And what is she going to do? Is she going to go to court in Guatemala against Bob? Of course it's not. Is she going to go to arbitration? Of course it's not. So the world economy has lots of situations like this one where you have like lots of claims happening in global jurisdictions throughout borders. And there is not like a really good way to solve this, okay? So enter Kleros. Imagine when they make the agreement, Alice sends a payment in cryptocurrency to a smart contract, and they both agree to have Kleros as arbitrator. If there is no dispute, I mean, the money gets released, Bob gets the money, Alice gets the video, all good. But if there is a dispute, so the case is going to go to Kleros, and Kleros is an app built on blockchain. It's going to select a panel of jurors who are going to analyze the evidence, each of them independently, and vote on who they think is right. So why is this built on blockchain? Well, because for traceability. So you want people to know that nobody tampered with the evidence, nobody tampered with the jury selection process, and nobody tampered with the vote counting process, okay? So these people analyze the evidence, vote, and let's say majority claims that Alice is right. So the smart contract that was holding the money in escrow sends the money to her, and this finishes the situation, okay? But understand how this works in general? Yeah, good. Well, you might be wondering, how do you select jurors and who are they? And this is one of the main innovations of decentralized justice, is that it uses a very specific selection process based on a token called the Pinakion. And I see people smiling on the other. This was, Kleros means randomness in Greek, and is loosely inspired on how the ancient courts work in ancient Athens. And Athenians used this token called Pinakion, or Pinakion, I think they pronounce that in Greek, to select jurors for their popular trials. And they had this very sophisticated method to make sure that nobody would tamper with this jury selection process. So this is how Kleros works. There is this token that people have to stake in order to be drawn. And then this token also has a function in incentivizing jurors to vote and to, vote honestly and resolve the cases. And the backbone of all this is game theory, based on research done by Thomas Schelling in 2005, Nobel Economics. And he created this idea of Schelling points, or focal points, and we call them Schelling points in his honor. And lots of the research done about Kleros is about how the game theory works in order to create the proper incentives for jurors to resolve the cases. So I'm not going to go into detail about this because William is going to speak at length about the incentive system. I'm just going to mention that the important thing here is that the way in which this is built results in a resolution time that is dramatically lower than what it takes in traditional arbitration online. Like arbitration online, it's like maybe 20, 30% more efficient than traditional arbitration, but with these new different mechanisms that bring decentralized justice, it can be like 10x more efficient. It can take just a few days to resolve a case. The cost would be just a few $1,000s. It's extremely, extremely cheap. And it also has a transparency brought by the use of blockchain for traceability of the process, okay? Where this is used, well, think e-commerce, disputes between buyers and sellers, think insurance company against, a policyholder about, some personal injury claim, think everything about small court claims, consumer disputes, utilities companies, phone company, all of these little claims. And think also about the future. Think of esports. Think disputes happening in a tournament of esports where you have 20 people playing from different countries, and they have a dispute about someone cheating. How do you solve this in a traditional, court where people are from different places? And think, the metaverse. Lots of the disputes that we'll have in the future are going to be with people that we don't know who they are. We only know them through their avatar, and we have no idea where they live. Because we just interacted with them only on online communities. So this is what the future of law looks like for a lot of us. Okay. So this was the idea and the implementation, and we also are defining a new field that we call decentralized justice. And the main paper, the seminal paper where we describe what this looks like, it was published in 2021 at the Stanford Journal of Blockchain Law and Policy with my co-author Bruno Defems. And here we define decentralized justice based on three main topics: decentralization, the idea of using economics for dispute resolution, and the idea of fairness. So the first feature is that decentralized justice systems are encoded as decentralized autonomous organizations which tend to produce rule of law. Nobody controls, nobody owns the system. It's owned by the community, and it's governed through voting and community decisions. And these systems, the way they are built, they should comply with the 6 features of rule of law as defined by Weingast and Hatfield. This paper about making a decision logic that everyone can understand, that is publicly available, it's public, people can see how it works. So this is one of the main ideas behind the decentralized justice. Second one is the idea of using economic incentives for having jurors make the right decisions. These systems don't rely on assuming moral behavior on the part of agents. They just assume that agents will follow their economic interest, and the result of this mechanism is that each of them following their economic interest will result in fair outcomes, okay? And finally, the idea of fairness. So these are, at the end, dispute resolution or justice systems. So they should, or they have a claim to produce fair decisions, okay? So the first version of Kleros, which was the first decentralized justice system, was launched in 2018. This is what it looked like. Do you remember, William? Yeah. So and then we launched a new version in 2019. This looks a lot better. And then lots of things happened over the years. I mean, this is I don't expect you to read from there, but we can discuss later if you want in the coffee. I mean, lots of these different products, learnings, launches, failures also. And last year we launched the beta version for Kleros 2.0, which is the new iteration. And at the moment, Kleros has resolved 2,000 cases. It has a community of around 800 tutors, and it's currently used in fintech, insurance, and governance. This is not an idea. This is of course an idea, but this is actually being used now, and there are people using it, and people engage every day, being jurors in different types of cases that we have. It's still experimental, it's still early stage, but this is actually built and working. So, 2023, we made a little review paper where we reviewed our learnings since the start of the project. This is the paper. And there are mainly 4 big challenges ahead for this field to become more important and widely adopted. The first one is technical challenges. So it's mostly about how we can build this system to be more secure against collusion, bribery, different types of attacks. This is mostly of the work on which William has worked over the years. And also, the main questions that we want to answer in this particular conference is how to make these systems better in the sense of how to improve the mechanism. And some questions that I was discussing before with Paul is about, okay, are these agents fully rational, or do they show biases in how they act? Because even if we assume that they are looking for their economic interest, they are still making decisions about like justice. So, and fairness considerations can affect the way in which they decide. The second main challenge is about the market. So in the end, this needs to solve real problems. And so one of the main questions are, what are the industries where these types of models are going to be more prevalent and more adopted? And also, and this is very relevant in the recent times, so how will these models interact with other rising technologies like AI for dispute resolution? So this is one of the questions that take most of our time in recent months. The third is, well, what are the legal challenges for adoption? So is all of this even legal? So this is a great question. So when we started, I mean, all of this sounded like a crazy idea. Lots of people had questions about whether this complied or not with the New York Convention of Arbitration. Some people even got angry when I said that this was arbitration, and they told me not to refer to this as arbitration because arbitration was defined in a very specific way, which was a good point. So I have to say that over time, well, this has become legal in some places. So Mexico passed a law where they make a number of a law about alternative dispute resolution and innovation, and here they mention how different technologies affect dispute resolution in Mexico and what technologies are legal, and one of those technologies is decentralized justice. So this is basically legal under Mexican law, and it can be used, and it is starting to be used, for example, in consumer disputes, in insurance, for example, and with this new legislation passed last year, as you know, support for the legality of this approach. And finally, one of the big topics is, well, okay, but is this an ethical way of resolving disputes? Dispute resolution comes with lots of ideas we have about how it should work. And, well, the idea of using economic incentives doesn't bode very well with some common understandings of how a process of dispute resolution should work. There were lots of objections done, for example, by Nathan Schneider in a very, I would say, famous paper now on crypto economics as a limitation on governance. And this paper claims that this idea of using economic incentives, it's not only in decentralized justice, blockchains work with this. So they claim that maybe this is not something that should be seen and will be seen as ethical or moral by users. And if people don't see this as a fair way to solve disputes, they will basically not use it. So this is one of the other main topics that we are researching. And Nathan is going to be in the afternoon in one of the panels. So the way I see the future of this industry and of this field is that for this to work, it needs to kind of align four main elements, which is very cross-discipline by nature. So first, it needs to be technically secure and efficient in the sense of like not being gamed. So the mechanism should be robust. So this is what I expect, this community to start building, better research regarding how to make these systems more robust against all types of different attacks. Second, it needs to solve a problem in the market. So this needs to actually, be useful for improving dispute resolution in some way. Third, it needs to be legal, of course. It needs to comply with regulation. And finally, it needs to be perceived as ethical by the community that will use it. So, well, this is the framework that will orient us throughout the day. And you will I will explain later, and you will start seeing how there are like different trade-offs between these little bubbles. And when you want it to be more ethical or more legal, then it becomes less secure, or, other different types of trade-offs that we are trying to figure out, and what we want you to help us to figure out together. So thank you very much, and let's get started, and I will let William. Yeah, thank you.